Earlier tonight, Graham Richardson spoke to Senator Matt Canavan about events of the past 48 hours in Canberra, in particular the very close vote where Michael McCormack staved off Barnaby Joyce for the National Party leadership. Now, of course, Canavan, who was Resources and Northern Australia Minister, resigned prior to the vote. He's obviously a Barnaby man. He's Barnaby's former Chief of Staff. Here's what Richo and Canavan spoke about earlier tonight.
Matt Canavan, welcome to the program.
Good to be here, Richo.
Now, you've had a pretty big day. The Nationals seem to be in upheaval. Is that a fair word to describe the situation in which you find yourself today?
Well, look, I suppose I'd describe it as disruption. That there has been disruption, but there's also been resolution. It's been a tough time for our party in the last couple of years, but this week, we had a vote. There was a clear result, and I'm committed, and I know others are committed to get on with our jobs now and our roles and support the leadership team that's been elected in Michael McCormack and David Littleproud. Sometimes I think it's a cathartic experience to go through these times, and I know even since the days since, relationships that have been a little fraught over the last few years have been repaired. So there's always positives out of things, and I'm a big believer in looking for the positives and then finding something else to get on with and be constructive, and that's what I'll commit to do.
So McCormack is now safe?
Oh, look, absolutely. I think this has been our first contest for the leadership in 30 years. There's every likelihood it will be another generation before another one.
The nation will miss your contribution because, in my view, you were one of the most successful ministers. You knew how to prosecute a case, and you didn't simply visit issues, you stayed with them until they were fixed and sorted, which I found, to be different to some ministers. And also you knew how to stand up to bureaucrats, which an awful lot of ministers these days simply never do. Now, when it comes to the National Party, though, what's the future for the Nationals? I mean, is it worthwhile batting on as the LNP, or should that not remain a permanent fixture?
I think there's never been a more important time for the Nationals Party. We have seen across our society a concentration of power, a centralisation of population, which has made it difficult for those in far-flung parts of the country to have their voice heard at different times. And I actually think it's one of the contributing factors to the rise of populism, the decline in trust in democracy across the world, is people don't feel like they're in control of their local community, because often bureaucrats, as you describe, bureaucrats from thousands of kilometres from where they live, make decisions about their local town, which have often perverse outcomes. Or when they express certain views on issues, be it climate change or environmental issues, they're treated as, they're talked down to and belittled. So that leads to a reaction in a democratic society. We've seen that at different elections here in Australia and overseas in Western societies. And I think parties like the Nationals Party have a really important role to give voice to those frustrations, to act as a release valve, to feed those back into the political system so that we can maintain a coherent community and country. I'm a big believer that what makes a good neighbourhood, what makes for good neighbours is for good fences, that we respect different parts of the country having different views, like you respect your neighbours having different ideas about how he runs his garden, but you still come together as a community and as a nation to unite, and that's why the Nationals Party is important, and as I say, I think it's more important than ever before.
Yeah, well, certainly they wouldn't be in government without you, I just want, as I said, I'll just be happy if you resume a ministerial role. You're too good to sit on a backbench. I know you say you want to help the people of Queensland. You can do that as a minister as well. All I know is, mate, you're worth powder and shot, and I want you back. So good luck to you. More strength to your arm, and let's just hope that the party sees sense and sensibility very soon, and we do see you back in the right position. Thank you very much for your time, as always, Matt.
Thanks, Richo. Have a good evening.
Caleb, Canavan will be a big loss for the Nats.
He certainly will, and I think there are two things you take out of this situation over the last couple of days. One is that Barnaby is now totally cooked. he cannot come back in any kind of senior form in the party. I mean, it's a pretty courageous thing to say you're going to challenge the incumbent leader and not have the numbers before you've said you're going to do that. That's a total miscalculation and has basically killed any ambition that he had to get back into leadership. But I'm not sure it's all that great news for McCormack either. I mean, yes, he won, but the Nationals won't tell us the numbers, and there must be a reason they won't tell us those
Well,
numbers.
the Mail is it was 11-10, Caleb.
Exactly, exactly. And that's why they don't want to tell us, because he nearly lost. I mean, all they needed to do was swing one vote. So even though he's the leader and he's retained his leadership, he still has it, you know, close enough to half the party who preferred Barnaby Joyce of all people. So he's not exactly standing on totally solid ground, is he? So it's all good and well for Canavan to say that, you know, there probably won't be another change of leader for a generation. I think that's probably a bit optimistic. I'm sure there'll be other people in the coming years who'll be trying to run the numbers, because we know that McCormack is hardly the most popular guy in the party, but at the moment he's about all they've got. But yes, Canavan will be a loss. He was a pragmatic, level-headed guy, and I think he did well as a minister. As Richo noted, he was willing to take it to bureaucrats, and he got on with his job as a minister, which is to make decisions, to make calls, and to sometimes do things that are unpopular or have to be done. So he will be a loss to the front bench, but he's shown gumption in standing by his beliefs, unlike a lot of other people in the two major parties over the last 10 years, by resigning from the ministry in order to back another leader. How many people have put knives in the backs of people to further themselves? Canavan's too honest for that.
Ollie, it was interesting. I had Peter Credlin on my Win show yesterday, and she said, take this to the bank, Gleeso. Michael McCormack will not be Deputy Prime Minister in the lead up to the next election.
Well, the results of yesterday's party room meeting would indicate that, regardless of the fact he's won it for now, his leadership is very much on shaky ground. So if Peter Credlin is saying that he's gone, that he's a dead duck, then we're just going to have to watch the clock start to tick. And who is there to replace him? Will it be Barnaby having another crack? I know Caleb just said he's cooked. Well, he might be cooked, but he's probably cooked enough to have another crack at it. So whether it's Barnaby, whether or not David Littleproud is able to further his political ambitions over the next 6 or 12 months or so and really rise through the ranks of the Nationals party, because he looks like somebody who's probably a leader somewhere down the track. He might get that opportunity thrown to him a little earlier than he expected. I suppose he's probably the only other alternative, but he's an unknown commodity at the moment. He'll probably be moving into a more senior portfolio within the Morrison cabinet, and we'll have to see how he performs. He was obviously sidelined when Bridget McKenzie became the deputy leader and took over the agriculture portfolio. I thought Littleproud did a fantastic job when he stood up to a lot of these activists who were trying to invade farms and really did the job that you'd expect of an agriculture minister, to stand up for regional Australia. So that's what the Nats need to get back to, Gleeso and Caleb, is they need to get back to the job of representing the bush, representing the country, and if they can start really, you know, portraying that message, which is what they are the party all about, then hopefully they can get the train back on the tracks.
Well, yeah, and they are under siege from the shooters and fishers and the Hansons and the Catters of the world, so it's a difficult task.